Hello, one and all, and welcome to an episode of Top Deck Thoughts. Now, for this episode, we're going to do a topic about the upcoming Zendikar Rising set. We're going to, as of this recording, the previews are actually going to start tomorrow. They're going to do a big reveal stream at around 10 o'clock where I'm at, but it's like 8 a.m. at their time, essentially, so they're going to start that and start the whole spoiler season. And I always like to do this little thing where I kind of try to guess some good cards to at least keep an eye out on for the potential expansion coming up. Now, like I said, I'm going to keep it since it's going to be rotation. I am going to make it where it's still standard rotation proof cards because, well, when Zendikar comes out, a lot of cards are coming out of standard. So, you got to keep that in mind. I mean, like, to put in perspective, once Zendikar comes out, we're going to have the big rotation happen, which means that specifically, and let me actually get to it, we're going to lose Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, War of the Spark, and Core Set 2020. So, a lot of sets coming out, but we still have a lot of sets still currently in the year, such as, for example, Core Set 2021, Ikoria, Pharaohs, and Throne of Eldraine. So, essentially, I'm going to talk about cards from those sets to at least a few of them to keep an eye out on that might be a lot more beneficial when Zendikar comes around the corner. Now, the one I'm actually going to start off with is cards that are specifically tailored around lands. Specifically, the ones I'm going to be talking about is stuff if we go straight to green. Honestly, we just really go straight to green for this one. Stuff like Azusa's Lost but Seeking, also stuff like Cultivate, Dryad, and even potentially Footlid, and also stuff like Migration Path, any like land fetch spells. I would say keep an eye on these type of cards. And the reason why I'm saying that is because one of the upcoming mechanics that it's coming from, potentially, we don't know yet, but it's a good hunch that probably one of the returning mechanics for Zendikar is going to be Landfall. And for those who don't know, Landfall is a specific mechanic where there's creatures, or enchantments sometimes, but mostly creatures, where they have a landfall effect, where essentially means that when you play a land, it does a thing. Like, the closest one I could think of, but I highly doubt they're ever going to reprint, is like something like Lotus Cobra, which was like a 2-drop where essentially you play a land, and then once the land is played, you didn't generate a mana of any color. I actually have one copy of my Yarok deck, but there's no way they're going to reprint that card. I'm more thinking if they do bring Landfall back, it's probably going to be more nerfed, kind of like stuff like the Leopard from Rise of Zendikar. It'll be interesting to see if they bring some of the old power stuff back of Landfall, but still, the fact that Landfall could be a returning mechanic makes it that you want to keep an eye on cards that allow you to play extra lands, such as Dryad and Azusa, and also stuff that helps you fetch lands, such as Fertilid, Cultivate, and Migration Path. So, keep an eye on those. Another one I would say to keep an eye on, we know one of the returning mechanics is actually Kicker, which, for those who don't know how Kicker works, mostly Kicker works by essentially when you cast a spell, you could spend extra mana to essentially cast it. For those who played during Dominaria, you're very familiar with the mechanic. So a card I would actually recommend if for the Kickers type of shenanigans, it's actually Ironcrag Feet. I think Ironcrag Feet, if we get really any good red Kicker cards, maybe even like any good splash Kicker cards, I would definitely keep Ironcrag Feet in mind, because it allows us to essentially, as you know, spend 4 mana to get 7 mana right off the bat. So, essentially then, if we have, like, let's say a good free drop in red that has, like, a kicker of 2 or 4, and then it does something silly, then Ironcrag Feet will be perfect. Plus, also its synergy with stuff like Chromatic Orly is also something to consider, especially if you want to splash for another kicker of a specific other color or stuff. So, keep an eye on stuff like that. Kicker is kind of really silly, so something to keep in mind. Another card I would consider if Zendikar is coming, we have, thanks to the new Nahiri, actually did realize that there's going to be equipments coming into the set, and potentially warriors. In my opinion, I'll actually give a quick 2 cents on the 2 planeswalkers. Jace, I'm going to leave it for the set review to go full in on the planeswalkers, but Jace, I think has the potential to be very good. Nahiri, I like. Really dependent on how many warriors and equipments we get in the standard, so completely honest on that one. Nevertheless, I will say with the equipments with Nahiri, if we are going to get into an equipment matters set, the one equipment that I see so many people passing by, but I do think you want to keep in mind, honestly, I'm not going to kid you, not, it's Mace the Valiant. And I know it's not the most flashiest card, and it's kind of a gimmicky. You either play it in Brawl or you play it in a really jank deck, but I feel like for janky applications, it's a card to actually keep in mind, because the one thing that everybody points out with the new Nahiri Planeswalker card is mostly the factor that, oh, one of the warriors you can fetch with Nahiri is Winota, and you're going to make a core warrior token because of the plus, and then you're going to actually maybe have other stuff that's cores and warriors, and then you can go with Winota. True, but I still don't see how people are not connecting together the fact that when Winota can put multiple creatures onto the battlefield, specifically humans, that having a mace on the battlefield actually is very synergistic because it puts a lot of charge counters on it. So if you already have it equipped, say, to your core warrior, then your core warrior gets really big really quick. I know, it's still like, I'm going to be honest, it's not like an Embercleave, it's not even like a Shadow Spear, but I do feel like Mace does have at least a potential realm of applications. Well, while we're talking about it, yeah, keep an eye on Shadow Spear and also keep an eye on Embercleave because, hey, if we're going to get into a encouragement in Boros and more equipment matters type synergies, you do want to keep these cards in mind. Besides that, I would say the only thing else I would say is keep an eye on tribal matters, because one thing that's in the card that people don't really talk about is it does have sometimes a subtle tribal synergy on it. Like, you have vampires, you have merfolks, and you have goblins, and even sometimes elves in the set. So there is the potential that we might get lords or either just essentially cards that might be potentially synergistic to a specific tribe. So if you're a person that plays goblins, merfolk, elves, or such, or even vampires, you might want to still keep Zendikar check. Especially for me, it's going to be goblins, like I said in my previous video before this. I was trying to make a deck with Gruul with Conspicuous Snoop. So yes, I am going to keep my eyes on some specific goblins. Speaking of which, keep your eye on Snoop for standard, especially if we get any good goblins with any activated ability shenanigans. And I think that's the ones I think of right off the bat that I would say keep an eye on. I know this video is a little short. It's mostly because I want to get ready for the big spoiler season tomorrow, so kind of getting ready for that, just setting up stuff and just essentially. Also, I kind of wanted to use this video to also ask if people want me to try to do a set review of this. I know some people love the set reviews. I know some people are just like, okay, just give me a quick 2 cents on it. I would actually like your opinion if you want me to do that or not. I might leave a poll on Twitter and such just to see. Nevertheless, those are cards I would say keep an eye out. I am really excited for tomorrow's set of shenanigans of Zendikar variety, and I really can't wait to see what they provide. Nevertheless, I hope you all have a good night. This is LevDev, signing out.